Typically, diamond rings are bought in high-end jewelry stores. These extremely valuable items must be safely guarded behind bulletproof glass and security cameras. So you can imagine this farmer's surprise when he found one of these diamond rings tightened around one of his fielded carrots. It was a strange sight, but things got way stranger when he showed his wife, and she told him this. Farmer Bob was up before the sun, as usual, walking his land with a coffee mug in one hand and his jacket collar pulled tight. Dew still clung to the grass and his crop fields looked lovely from where he started out. But what Bob did not know was that his property harbored a secret on this very morning, one that would change his life forever. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. When Bob left for his daily rundown along his fields, he wasn't expecting anything unusual. He had mostly corn growing at the moment, and all of it looked to be growing pretty well. Other than that, it was mostly some vegetables he used to feed himself and his wife, Judith. There were some tomatoes, a few kale plants, and plenty of carrots. As Bob finished walking past his cornfield and checked off his rundown list on that part, he reached the personal vegetable garden. The tomatoes were ripening and the kale was almost ready for harvest. But when he reached the carrot plants near the edge of the lot, he noticed something odd. A big hole in the soil indicated that one of the plants was ripped from the ground. This wasn't something an animal could have done. A badger or fox would have dug around the plant, and visible traces of that action would have been seen. But there was nothing of the sort here. It looked like someone grabbed the entire plant and pulled it from the ground, stems and all. "What the hell?" Bob uttered. And that's when he looked up and saw it. Bob grabbed the carrot bunch at its leafy top, intending to toss it aside. But when he lifted it, something shiny flashed in the morning light. Bob paused, turning the cluster of roots in his hand. One of the larger carrots had grown around something, a tight metallic band wedged snugly into its midsection. "What the?" he muttered, brushing off the dirt with his thumb. It wasn't just metal. It was white gold. Bob saw a ring, crusted into place and fully wedged into the center of the vegetable. The carrot had ballooned around it like a swollen finger wrapped in jewelry. Bob leaned in closer. There were tiny stones across the top, little diamonds set in neat rows, with a larger one in the middle. His brow furrowed in confusion. He carefully twisted the carrot, trying to see the band's details. It was still in good shape, not rusted or cracked. The ring was delicate, old-fashioned, and looked valuable. Bob glanced around as if someone might appear to claim it. But there was no one, just him, the oak tree, and the cool morning breeze. Now where the heck did this come from? He stood there for another minute with the carrot in hand, ring gleaming between two fat orange ridges. The sight was almost funny, if not so puzzling. Had it fallen months ago? And the carrot just grown through it? Snapping the carrot off the main bunch, he held it up and inspected it again. The way it gripped the ring was like the vegetable was wearing it proudly, a strange orange finger wearing a secret, which confused Bob's mind severely. After this final inspection, he turned and began walking back toward the farmhouse, his boots crunching over gravel. The sun started rising over the fields as Bob climbed the farmhouse steps. He held the carrot tightly in his free hand, as if he feared dropping it and never seeing it again. His mind raced with questions. But things were about to get even stranger, and it all had to do with his wife Judith's reaction after seeing the ring. Inside the house, the floor creaked beneath his boots as he stepped through the kitchen. The coffee pot hissed softly on the stove, but everything else was still and quiet. Bob set the carrot gently on the counter and wiped his hands on his jeans. He glanced toward the hallway and called up the stairs. "Judy, you up yet? You gotta see this." A shuffle came from upstairs, followed by a tired voice. "It's not even 6, Bob," she mumbled. Footsteps creaked, and a moment later Judith appeared at the top of the stairs, wrapped in a blanket, hair-tousled, blinking sleep from her eyes. Judith stepped down the last stair, rubbing her eyes with the corner of the blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. Bob motioned to the counter with a grin. "Look at that carrot," he said. She blinked, stepped closer, and leaned in. But instead of smiling or laughing, Judith's face tightened. Her eyes fixed on the ring, and Bob swore he saw them start to water. "Jude?" he asked gently, placing a hand on her arm. "You all right?" She stepped back quickly and rubbed her eyes again, this time harder. "I'm fine," she muttered. "Still waking up, that's all. My eyes are just being weird." Bob frowned. That wasn't the Judith he knew. Something about the ring had shaken her, not confused her, but disturbed her deeply. Before Bob could press further, Judith snatched the carrot off the counter like it had offended her. "It's not yours," she said sharply. "You shouldn't keep it." The sudden intensity in her voice left Bob speechless. She marched into the living room and pulled open the drawer of a small side table, dropped the carrot inside, and slammed it shut. "We leave it alone," she snapped. Bob stood frozen in the kitchen as Judith paced away. Her tone was final. "We don't talk about it, and we don't touch it again." Bob didn't argue but felt a creeping unease when she avoided looking at him afterward. When Bob returned from working outside, he found Judith standing at the living room window, staring blankly. He called her name softly, but she didn't respond, not even blinking. When he asked again, she flinched, then quickly dismissed it, claiming she was just thinking. Without further explanation, she grabbed her coat and left, saying she needed air. Bob stood in their living room for a long time, glancing at the drawer where the mysterious carrot ring lay. Judith's strange behavior was unsettling. She returned later, her face red from crying, her eyes empty. Bob had seen Judith cry before, but never like this. There was no explanation, and he was left with a feeling of dread. The next morning, Judith seemed distant, almost ghost-like. Her answers were short. Her eyes avoided Bob's. She said she hadn't slept well and that nothing was wrong, but Bob could feel something was off. By noon, Judith was gone again. She claimed to be going to town for groceries, but when Bob checked the pantry, there was no sign of any shopping. He knew she was lying. Later, Judith confronted Bob about the carrot ring. When he denied touching it, she muttered, "Well, I didn't take it either," and walked away. The conversation ended with a heavy silence, leaving Bob determined to find out what was happening. The next day, Bob pretended to be busy with work, but his eyes kept drifting to the house, waiting for Judith to make a move. When she left in a hurry, he quietly followed. He stayed hidden, watching her walk fast, her coat pulled tight around her. After a few moments, Judith stopped, glancing over her shoulder. Bob dropped behind a tree, holding his breath. She paused, but then kept moving, more cautious than before. He followed her at a distance as she walked confidently through the woods. After a while, Judith entered a small clearing and approached an old, abandoned house. Bob had seen it before on a hike years ago. Back then, Judith had said no one lived there, but now she was approaching it as though it was her destination. Bob stayed hidden as Judith climbed the porch steps and disappeared inside. The house felt heavier, as if it held secrets. Bob's heart raced. He hadn't been this deep in the woods in years, but something told him Judith was hiding more than she had let on, something she had never shared with him. Bob finally pushed through the door and entered the house, its musky smell confirming it had been empty for years. He moved carefully, inspecting the sparse furniture. As he reached the kitchen, he found open cereal boxes and a half-eaten bowl, evidence that someone lived here. Then he heard voices. One was Judith's, the other unfamiliar. But they were arguing. Standing in the doorway, Bob cleared his throat. Judith and a man in his early 30s turned to face him. Judith seemed startled. "Bob, what are you doing here?" she stammered. Bob, frustrated, responded, "I could ask you the same thing. Enough with the lies, tell me what's going on." Judith's eyes welled up, and she nodded. She confessed she didn't want to burden him with her problem. Bob promised he wouldn't judge and just wanted to listen. Taking a deep breath, Judith introduced the man as her half-brother, Lars. They shared the same mother but had different fathers. Judith explained how she and Lars had bonded growing up despite his disabilities, but after their mother passed away, she lost contact with him. "Yes, my mom died," Judith confirmed, "and after that, I was forced to live independently, but Lars stayed with our stepfather, who wasn't as patient or loving as our mother. I worried for him," Judith continued, saying when Lars's father moved away, she gave her brother their mother's wedding ring and promised that if he ever needed her, he'd leave it somewhere for her to find. That ring led Bob to the field, to the carrot where it had been hidden. "This house is where I grew up," Judith explained, "and when I saw the ring, I knew Lars needed my help." Judith was surprised to learn Lars had been living well with his father until his passing a month ago. With no one to care for him, he had found her, leaving the ring at the farm as a sign. Judith was overwhelmed with emotion. "I didn't want to burden you," she said, crying as she hugged Lars. Bob, moved by her compassion, responded, "We'll take care of him. He's family, and I'll love him like you do." Judith was taken aback but deeply grateful for Bob's understanding. They returned to the farm, determined to support Lars together, and never looked back.